And we are live. My name is JP Berg, and this is another episode of Politics with Peyman and JP. Today, we will be discussing the BC Mental Health Act, Alberta referendum gets real, and populist uprisings. So, with that said, I'm going to throw it right over to my co-host, Peyman Ascari. How are you doing on this fine morning?
I'm doing great. Another day, another fire to deal with in Canada, and we'll start with the BC Mental Health Act. For people that don't know, the intent of this act is it's pretty good. I mean, if you have somebody who's schizophrenic, banging their head against the wall, you want to make sure they get treatment. The problem is that the way that the act is written, it's usurping the authority of the courts. Whereas before, you would have to go before a court, before a judge, get a court order, and go detain somebody against their will. Now they've transferred that power to essentially a doctor. It's horrifying if you read it. The doctor comes in, they don't even have to see the patient. They just say, yeah, this guy's crazy. They hold him for 24 hours. They can extend that to a month, and then 2 months, then 3 months, then 6 months, and then 6 months. They can just renew it indefinitely again without seeing the patient. And it's been weaponized now. So this incident that happened with this gentleman, it's provocative because it's caught on video. But Fraser Health on Vancouver Island, they had a disagreement with their in-house counsel, and they just sicked the RCMP on him. The RCMP showed up. They're like, "Hey, we heard you're crazy," and the lawyer's like, "What? I'm not crazy." So they're weaponizing it and using it for political purposes.
Yeah, it's like a bad cliche from a dystopian science fiction novel. Like, we're at the point now where the state, through this mental health act, can just pick you up off the street. And how they're going to apply this, it's not true symptoms of mental illness, like you mentioned, schizophrenia. It's going to be, do you deviate from their orthodoxy? People who are pushing back against some of these policies are going to very easily be victimized by this type of legislation. And there's a story associated with this young man. Are you more familiar with it than I am? I believe, Payman. What's his story? Is he some type of I believe he's educated or something, isn't he?
Yeah, I didn't look into it. It's my understanding that he was in a coffee shop and somebody just came in and diagnosed him. He's critical of the government. Am I near the ballpark?
I think so, yeah. And it's like a casual observation now qualifies as a professional diagnosis. So you can casually observe somebody at a coffee shop. Maybe dude was having a bad day. What I'm pointing at is, even if he was exhibiting what could be classified as problematic behavior, under those circumstances, when you're not, aware you're being assessed, I mean, anyone could be. You could catch me 3 days out of the week, and I'm probably exhibiting some type of problematic behavior. It's shocking, man.
No, I get what you're trying to point out. Like, the word you're looking for is crazy. Like, this is batshit insane crazy. How could you live in a society where this is happening? Am I correct?
Definitely. Probably would have been a little more vulgar, really.
I want to make out some honorary mentions. Tony Ledsham, former Canadian Air Force pilot, he got detained under the Ontario Mental Health Act. So it's not just BC. They strapped him to a hospital bed, and they injected him with drugs. And he said the last thing that he thought of was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He's like, I thought I was going to wake up lobotomized.
It's a very good reference, but I mean, it's happened to so many people. Like Kirk Reese was another one that we've both a whistleblower trying to point out corruption in the armed forces, and he was targeted with the same thing. It's like, they have so many ways to deal with you. Number one, they prefer if we're all just afraid. We hear all these things, and it disincentivizes us from having an opinion. But I mean, if you become a thorn in the establishment side, they have a million ways, 6 ways to Sunday, to deal with you.
Kirk Reese, they put him in a straitjacket because he refused, and then they gave him the drugs. Dale Richardson, they strapped him to a hospital bed, and they drugged him because he was embarrassing the government vis-a-vis COVID. Mel Bruchet went in. He came out lobotomized. I met him. He's not a normal human being anymore. Dr. Anna's son was a victim of this. And also, if you remember a few months back, maybe a year now, there was that crazy guy who ran through a parade in Vancouver, drove through it with his car. That guy was drugged against his will under the BC Mental Health Act, and they swept it under the rug.
And the drugs they're giving them, like, there's potentially long-term effects, like, it's like, the equivalent of a modern day chemical lobotomy. They used to drill into the frontal cortex, now they could just give you some pills that take care of it for you. But the problem is with the legislation, like, there needs to be oversight on this. There needs to be, and there's not oversight on anything. If any, what they're doing with this latest wave of legislation is they're getting rid of judicial oversight. Same
Yeah.
with new hate speech laws. They don't want this to have to go to a court to be determined to be a hate crime. And hate is very tricky territory. You're proving motive then. It's always way more difficult to prove motive. It's an emotional, subjective reaction to things. Like, whatever hate is, it's not as clear and definable as you might think it is. So, I mean, we're seeing this. I guess we're seeing this everywhere, really, in Canada presently.
Man, you hit the nail on the head. It's oversight, and we have an oversight body. It's called the judiciary. That's the reason that you're supposed to have the division of power, so that you go to the court, and the court has rules and procedure, and they give you as objective as possible a ruling. Now, we have woke judges. That's a separate problem. But what they're doing is they're sidestepping even our activist judges, and they're collapsing that into the executive. That's what the tribunals are. That's what this BC Mental Health Act does. Don't get this wrong. This isn't just a set of rules that they follow. They've created a completely different mental health tyranny department within this province.
And it gives them carte blanche to determine that you're mentally unfit, and then they could do what they want with you, essentially. And
Yeah,
there's no way against this. Now,
it's horrifying. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
some of the reporting I heard regarding the gentleman in the video was that his family cooperated in some way, and the way the mainstream media is presenting it, it's like it was kind of, his family was concerned too or something. And I just know how disingenuous they can be. So I'm wondering if that's actually the case. I know you don't have that information, but it was an interesting way that they throw that in. Every time I've heard this referenced on a news story, they mentioned that, that this doctor that observed him at the coffee shop then coordinated with his family in some regard to determine more information. That's how they're putting it out there.
Well, I mean, it's soft tyranny, right? They don't come in and clobber you to death. They do what they did with Artur Pawlowski. They followed the law. They arrested him on the highway. I'm like, no. The underlying premise was that you're violating his freedom of speech, his freedom of expression. But the media kind of colludes with the government, and they say, well, yes, but the family, they also cited him, and the doctor was only doing his job.
Probably got like his ex-wife or something. Yeah, what do you think of your ex-husband? Yeah, he's crazy. It could be something as seemingly innocuous as that. So we have 28 people watching. I would like to appeal to the audience right now. If you could share this, the suppression is real. The only reach we get is through organic shares. So it's very important. So with that said, Peyman, do you want to switch to the next topic?
Sure.
So we have topic 2, the Alberta referendum gets real. So you've been doing some research regarding this Clarity Act, which seems, in my estimation, more like a prevention act, more so than clarifying anything. It kind of muddies the water a little more. Why don't you tell us a bit about this?
Sure. If you want to start there. 1998, after the Quebec referendum, the Supreme Court gave a ruling. And then 2000, the Parliament came in and said, based on that ruling, we're going to give ourselves the authority to determine when and how a province can leave the Confederation. Even though, like, they admit in this act that the Canadian Constitution doesn't allow for provinces to leave, but they assume that the federal government is above the provincial governments, which is not. But this has been the trend since 1982. And they set a whole bunch of provisions like we, the Parliament, will decide if the question is reasonable. We, the Parliament, will decide if we have the right or we need to change your borders, how we settle debts, how the province deals with its minorities and Aboriginals. It's basically just making it impossible for people to leave.
Yeah, it reads like a prevention act, just some of the screenshots you were sending to me. It's pretty shocking, and I knew this was going to be the case. I'm not trying to blow my own horn, but I said this, like, once they every task they give you, it's probably demoralizing too, like, "Here, go gather a couple of 100,000 signatures," and then you actually accomplish that, and then it's like, "Okay, well, that's not you didn't do any, counseling with Aboriginal peoples in the area." So now that's no so now they'll give them another hurdle, another hill to climb. And when they reach the top of that hill, it will just be to discover the next hill. They're just going to perpetually place obstacles in front of this movement. And then in the end, if they reach all this criteria, then they're just going to shut it down anyway. Like there's no way they're going to let this happen unless there's some kind of pressure from America. I think America could step in some regard and help out with this, or something really gross and violent.
Well, I mean, yesterday we went over how the left, in Canada is the left, how they basically they've crossed the Rubicon. They've declared war against the referendum. They got Wob Canoe out, and then shortly after that, Mark Carney came out and he tied it to Brexit, which is I'm just like, you son of a bitch, you destroyed England, and now you're going to mention how Brexit was the problem of that. And what happened today? That is it. Avi, the idiot loser guy in charge of the NDP, he came out and he said these guys are basically MAGA. This is in no way like Quebec. Wob Canoe comes out again and he says, "I love this country. I would never want to split it up." So they're in full panic mode, but they're in attack mode.
It's mega. They're mega adjacent.
Yeah.
It's so ludicrous, man. And so what if they are? Like we're talking about self-determination. We're talking about democracy, the word they like to tout a lot. Oh, it's for our democracy. It's pretty outrageous. Like if the people out of Alberta identify with a mega, whatever that means, that's very vague, especially presently. But if they identify with that, and there's a majority of them that want that, who are these people to deny it? And especially vilify them based upon it. It's again, it's just so ludicrous. It sounds like something from like 5 years ago. Most people don't use MAGA like that anymore. It's kind of, but I guess Mr. Lewis is just stuck there, right? It's the conservative boogeyman. It's the right boogeyman. And that's what they're pushing to Canada. And that's very efficacious. Look, that kind of is what gave Carney the victory in this last one.
Man, this is a surgical strike. It reminds me of when they installed Mark Carney. Like they had all their ducks in a row. They were thinking several steps ahead. The timing it's not just a coincidence. They derailed completely the referendum, and then they attacked Daniel Smith, in such a way that she's between a rock and a hard place. She doesn't want to lose her base, the so-called MAGA, but she doesn't want to give an opening for the NDP to come and take over the province again. And as you mentioned, I don't see a way out of this unless the US gets involved heavily.
Yeah, we showed that little news clip of their press conference where they all kind of and she wasn't aware of this, but they all had them put on Team Canada t-shirts at one point in this outside setting, and it's like right away, like what does she do? Imagine you're in Danielle Smith's shoes, because it's very easy to criticize her, but put yourself in that situation. That's the epitome of a rock and a hard place. It's like, this is going to really disgust a lot of my base, not because they hate Canada, but because they could see what this is. It's kind of like a struggle session. Put this t-shirt on. And then she knows if she doesn't, I mean, and she's admittedly herself a federalist. I think she has federal ambitions. I think she's positioning herself to potentially run for federal office. But yeah, man, I wouldn't want to be in her shoes. I certainly would not want to be in her shoes in that situation.
Danielle Smith, she's very good as a politician. That could be a bad thing, but I think what she needs to do is first she needs to deal with David Eby, which is not that hard. The guy is just a moron. He can't stand up for himself. And then she needs to take on Wob Canoe. I understand that Wob is playing the minority card, but she could play the female card. She is the only female politician right now in Canada that comes to mind, and she is the toughest one in Canada right now. Like she needs to mobilize the female vote. Like she needs to say, listen, I'm getting attacked by all these men that are mansplaining to me. I'm standing up for not just women, but men. men as well in Canada.
Yeah, it gives her an edge in the whole intersectionality. Like, what does a white female? I would say the First Nations person still outweighs them in this hierarchy.
She
This
could come out as
hierarchy of oppression.
she identifies as trans, she moves up.
Yeah, if she identifies as trans, we could win this thing. She could just change it to Daniel Smith.
Daniel, yeah.
But no, it's pretty wild, man. The whole thing, it's like it just goes to show, like, there's no hope to get out of this easily. I don't think there's political solutions. I know this is a common theme I touch upon, just because I think our problems are above that. Mark Carney's from the banking elite. He's like one of the guys that helped conceptualize and orchestrate their entire green agenda. Like, he's an actual player. When they asked him before, it's a famous video clip that came out. I think it was when he was leaving the Bank of England. And a British reporter just asked him, are you going to consider, running for Canadian office now that you're done? You're 10 years over here. And he said, he pretended he didn't hear it at first. He repeated the question. And then he says, without really thinking much, yeah, I'll just be a clown. Maybe I'll just join the circus and become a clown. Mark Carney understands. He's probably one of the people better situated to see how performative politics is. It's a show for the people. It's to give us this illusion of participatory governance, this illusion of democracy. So, I mean, only so much can be changed at that level. With that said, though, the performance still has merit. I mean, like, I still wouldn't want to be Danielle Smith in this situation, or Daniel Smith, whatever she's identifying as.
Leading up to the referendum, they made this like offhand comment that Ottawa, is going to pull out all the stops. Our good friend Andre Meloche always says, Ottawa will never allow this referendum to move forward. And we kind of just repeated it like it was common knowledge. But, now we see that maybe we should have taken that more seriously. Like, if this referendum movement was serious, they would have made far more partnerships. Like, I remember early on that Jeffrey Rath was talking about how he's reached out to a couple of countries in the event that the referendum went through, but Ottawa wouldn't recognize it, those countries would step in. Well, they're not even letting the referendum go through. Like, they should have thought many, many more steps ahead.
Yeah, I think it started very organically. And I think there's different camps within this movement, and they seem to not really agree on anything. So there has to be someone who can get in there and be diplomatic and unify the movement and actually conceptualize some goals moving forward. Let's all get on the same page. Look, if we could disagree with each other later, but right now we have a common enemy, and solidarity is required. This movement's up against Goliath. It's up against the massive Canadian bureaucracy. I mean, in order to have a modicum of a chance to be successful, they need solidarity. They all need to get on the same page. They need to get together. They sure as hell have to stop the public attacks of one another, because that just leaves a poor taste in people's mouth. It discredits the movement overall. It shows how kind of sloppy it is. And I always bite my tongue because I'm not from Alberta. And I don't want to mess with it any more than it is, but at this point it's on our topic list. So if it makes the topic list, it's fair game. But yeah, I think it requires true leadership that can actually swallow their own personal pride and ego and lead the movement, bring people together, like quash some of these silly little disagreements, get on the same page, and mobilize.
Think of it this way: if we wanted to do a BC separation, it would take at least 10 years, and you'd have to go community to community, and you'd have to convince people that this is everything wrong with Canada, and you'd have to touch on the main areas that they're going to weaponize against you: the Aboriginal movement, minority rights. They kept mentioning this thing, minority rights, in the Clarity Act. I'm like, what the fuck? Why are you mentioning this in a secession document? What does this have to do with anything? So you got to do that for 10 years, and even then, like, I don't know if British Columbians will ever wake up.
Yeah, it's just to further convolute the process. Like, we were reading the parts, and they use this very ambiguous terminology, like a clear expression. Well, how do we quantify what a clear expression means in this context? And that's done very intentionally. They muddy the waters so you can't use this legislation. They write traps in the legislation, and it's in thick legalese. So you really have to watch for it to catch them. But it's in most Canadian law. Really, at the end of the day, we don't have rights. We don't have rights. They've ensured that we do not. They have the final say. We have privileges at best, and they could be revoked at the behest of the regime.
I mean, at this point, they might as well rewrite the Clarity Act to say that the referendum has to demonstrably justify that there's a will of the people to leave.
Yeah, it's wild. And they set the criteria, and it's very vague. So they can make it whatever they want relative to the circumstances. It's when you read it, it's like I said, I was making a joke, but it should be called the Prevention Act, because there's no way there's a viable path to meet all of these vague criteria. So I mean, it's straight up. It's just an absolute hurdle in the middle of this road.
And it's only 8 pages. Just goes to show that in 26 years, how much the country's fallen. If they wrote that today, it would be like 150 pages, and it'd be incomprehensible.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess we should move on to our topic 3, which is populist uprising. I was just checking out the news for the show today. We usually check the night before and in the morning to see what relevant news stories we want to cover. And it was reading like there was mainstream outlets that are talking about the populist uprisings through Europe and how it's weakened some of this countries. It's been violent. And think about how they're using that term in this context. Was populism just means what's popular. Essentially, I know there's a far deeper meaning to it, but it means like the will of the people. So what they're saying essentially through their Pravda-esque media is they're saying that the people want something that goes against what the aristocracy wants. That's essentially what they mean when they use populism. But in Europe is far more awake to all of these issues, and I think it's because the agenda has been implemented for far longer there. But at this point, like, populism is huge. Like Marine Le Pen in France, you have it in Italy with Meloni, although she's seemingly wavered a little bit in her convictions. But it's Germany has the Alternative for Deutschland, the AfD. Italy, again, the Brothers of Italy. The Austria has the FPO, strong in the polls. The Netherlands, Portugal. So I mean, the people are speaking, and they don't want this globalist agenda. So I mean, and the media is reporting this as a problem. So that should just show us all what's going on right now. Like, just as much as I was saying it was relevant to the Alberta prosperity movement, the Alberta separatist movement, that they have solidarity. The people need to find some solidarity. We need to stop arguing over ideological preferences and culture war nonsense and get on the same page here. It's because we really have an externality, like this supranational system above our governments that control them, that are trying to push us into digital serfdom. That was a lot, Peyman. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You said that you wanted to, for the third topic, talk about populist uprising, and I went on X just to see what's going on, and immediately I had to go afterwards take a shower. Like, it's really bad what's going on X, is the way that they frame it, and they're trying to get everybody angry. One of them was what's going on in Argentina or whatever. They said it's a CIA-backed government, and the people, they're firing on the people. I have no idea. In Europe, I do agree, though, like AfD is becoming a major threat, but they've shown that the ruling class is perfectly willing to change the rules in the middle of an election, cancel an election, put in a puppet like Zelensky. So let's see what happens.
And then there's also the very real possibility that once this populist candidate gets elected and takes power, then they're sat down and told how this is going to work. Because it's like I said, the Brothers of Italy, Meloni's party, they got her in power. She's the leader of Italy, but she's going along suddenly with all of the EU mass migration, one of the biggest issues that she ran against. She's supporting Ukraine, one of the biggest issues she was running against. She's supporting this proxy war. So, I mean, like, again, if we get to vote for the banking oligarchy, then we have democracy. Until we get to vote on monetary reform and monetary policy, we're underneath a structure that most people can't see.
Yeah, this ties into Alberta as well because Smith ran as a populist, so she was championing Alberta sovereignty, Alberta, and not independence, but sovereignty, and she watered that down. She walked that back. Now she's a federalist. She's saying, "I want to stay in the Confederation," and she's writing MOUs with Carney, Mark's Carnage.
And it's easy to criticize from this end, but I faithfully believe that this is locked down. I think people of poor integrity and people that lack moral character, they can be very successful in a situation like our government. But I think even people with honest intentions, if you're not pushed out and you keep telling yourself, maybe I can just go along with this and then I'll be able to make a change, like you get sucked into it. So I mean, God knows what they have to leverage against you in that situation. I wouldn't be surprised if it's as bad and they're as desperate as to threaten you. Look, this is how it's going to work. You can't say no. You know what I mean? I really believe that they're willing to be very dark to maintain control.
I think that they use the economy. They'll just say, we'll blow up the economy if you don't do this. And it's not even a threat. Like, Mr. Prime Minister, if you don't raise the interest rates, the bond market's going to collapse. And they'd be like, all right, you fancy socks Trudeau, what does he know? He's like, yes, sir, whatever you say.
That's what really started to make me realize that there's broader powers. Was looking at Trudeau, and you could see like this man's not super bright. He's just not. I'm sorry. You could see it in everything, in him speaking, in his face. He's got a dumb face. Like, he doesn't look very bright. And I just was thinking to myself, like, is this guy really in control of the levels of power for this nation? Of course he's not. Of course he's not. And anyone who really thinks he was, like, still, like, I get the Trudeau hatred. He still betrayed his nation. But I mean, he was an actor. There's powers above that we should be focused on, not these political constructs. And that's what they are. They're not politicians as we've known the word. They're political constructs, sloppily regurgitating today's script to make all of us dumb peasants think that there's actually self-governance. That's where we're at. Bread and circuses, man.
It's a mess. I agree with you. And it's not just monetary policy. You also have corporations that are exerting undue influence, and you could tie that into monetary, and you could say you're close to the printing press. But then you also have the ruling elites. Again, you could tie that into monetary policy. But when, like, King Charles parachutes Mark Carney down, it's not independent, but it's another stream of attack. Then you got the useful idiots on the ground, and then you got the race baiters. And it's so hard. It's an exercise in cat herding.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's and we're in the thick of it now. So I just get this sense of desperation. All of the rhetoric is dialed up to full retard. It's going off. People are getting more angry. They're still just as confused as ever. And it's not just simply monetary policy. Like, Mark Carney, they say it out loud now. They want a public-private partnership. And again, I mentioned this before, but that's the historical architecture for a fascist society. The only ingredient missing is ultra-nationalism. But forget about that. Let's think bigger. What they have is this neoliberal ethos for ultra-internationalism. And that's what's being pushed. That's what woke is, by the way, or this DEI stuff. It's this ultra-nationalism, this weird humanist-style ideology. And really anti-humanist, but I mean, I think that's kind of the framing. So I mean, and that's where we are. That's what they have, and their masks off. You look at Bill C2, Bill C22, Bill C8, Bill C9, C11, C63. This guy's got Mr. Carney, the central banking parasite. He has a majority that he assembled through backroom deals, convincing 5 members of parliament to join his party. So he has an unelected majority government. And what's he going to do with that? He has no democratic mandate. He's going to change foundational things regarding our laws, our freedoms, our rights, our privacy. Like people should be in the streets yesterday.
Yeah, there was that.
Peacefully in the streets. I got to say peacefully. And I truly believe that too. I'm not walking it back. Peaceful noncompliance is our only weapon.
Who was that obese, the morbidly obese woman that crossed the floor? She looks like Jabba the Hutt. Do you remember her name?
Marilyn something or other.
Yeah, like this, this pathetic excuse for a human being. She says she did what was in the best interest of her people. And I'm like, well, yeah, but you destroyed the country just because he threw some money your way. And nobody's out in the streets. You said they should be out yesterday. There's nobody out yesterday. There's no one out today. There'll be nobody out tomorrow. They're not paying attention. This Avi guy from the NDP, the creature that's leading that party, he's trying to start another civil strife kind of movement. He's like picking on MAGA. Like what the hell are you talking about? How about you act like a goddamn adult? If you have a better vision for the country, give it. If you don't, like, sit down and shut up.
And this is a situation you get in when these public servants, if you can call them that, are have more personal ambition than they do personal integrity. And that's what I'm saying. It's so systemically corrupt that if you do enter and you have a firm integrity, they will push you out. There's no way they're going to allow you to represent your constituency. And that's just the reality. And that's a problem. We have to change this. So with that said, we're to the question and answer portion. I don't know if we have many. We don't really have many live viewers.
Hey, we got Andre Milosh. Hey, Andre, how's it going?
Greetings, Andre.
Somebody from, I guess, Kick, Chronix says, F the USA. I don't know if I agree with that. I know Kuzma's coming up for renegotiation. I know that Carney is a hell bent on moving Canada away from the US, but I mean, our American brothers and sisters down south have a lot more liberty than we do, despite the direction their country's going in.
I think like change that out would fuck the banks. And I know I'm a broken record, but it's not the USA. Like these people only have so much power. The big power is above them. It's monetary policy are the chains that enslave modern man.
It's like, you hold the doll, be like, Mr. Berg, show me on the doll where the banker touched you.
It's funny. I've evolved from anti-government to anti-finance. Yeah. Going down the rabbit hole will result in that.
No, the monetary policy thing is it's real. It's what's causing the problems, but nobody, it's not sexy, right? Like nobody wants to talk about it.
Meanwhile, we have a central banker in charge of our country passing transformational legislation to put us into a digital gulag. That's where we are, though, really. But no one's willing to look at the monetary system.
There's a video game I used to play back in the day. It's like a comic book kind of video game, and the deep state makes a series of genetic soldiers, and they decide to put one of those genetic soldiers as the president of the United States. It's kind of what Carney is. One of the bankers installed one of their own.
It got real. The actors weren't good enough. The pressure was there. They had to call in their main guy. He's like, Carney's up there, man. He's not like a regular world leader. That's why Trump had to respect him a little bit. These men run in the same circles too. I'm utterly convinced that there's a plan being enacted. We will see if there's a division between America and Europe and the Commonwealth countries as soon as this conflict gets real. If America doesn't go, say Russia attacks Europe proper, like hits Berlin or something, or Poland, I think if you don't see America go to war, then you could say, okay, maybe Trump's real in some sense. He's trying to, he's not going to, get involved in this, but you'll see. He'll go right behind them. It's not that maybe they want it, but there's a higher aspect of the government that our nations have become satellites of. We don't have nations full of people. That's why they don't mind swapping us out. We live in perverse corporations or commerce districts. So, I mean, we really have to change the framing if we want resolution.
You guys, Russia takes on all of Europe on its own. America's like, we will send you weapons. And then they realize they're out of weapons.
Well, that I mean, I don't know what Europe would do presently. They haven't had a functional military in a very long time, so it's a big problem.
That's a good question. Let's explore this. There's not really that many questions yet. Um, I mean, if Russia attacked a NATO country, then NATO would have the moral obligation to do something. But if Turkey doesn't get involved and America, they don't get involved, well, what is Europe going to do? What are they going to throw at them? Putin? Well,
Yeah.
from Canada?
Long range Poutine strike.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's I think they're very aware of this. That's why all of the Commonwealth nations and all of the EU nations are like scrambling to get their military back up to fighting standards. There's all kinds of debt going into it. I would say money, but we don't have money. We operate in perpetual debt nationally. So I mean, they're throwing all kinds of debt of more debt onto this to build their militaries. They're coming up short. So now they're in Canada. We've changed it. So now people with military experience that aren't from Canada and have no ties to Canada can come in and serve in our armed forces. So we're at the point now where we're bringing in foreign mercenaries, and it's not a good moment, man. I really feel there's desperation in the world, and my fear is that it's going to go super kinetic. I know there's two fronts right now, but my fear is that it goes broader. And once Europe gets struck outside, or if they actually decimate Ukraine, which they could do, with that heating up, that's something I've been worried about happening. Like I'd wake up one morning and check the news, and Ukraine is gone, it just doesn't exist anymore, and then we're in like full kinetic World War III.
Flights from Vancouver to Kiev are canceled indefinitely.
But it's scary, man, because like we've not seen conflict like the one that we're on the horizon of. Like we've read about it. World War II and World War I are would be comparable, but I think it will be even worse now with all this drone warfare. Like it's just we're in like some kind of weird RoboCop future where it's an android versus human war for different banking oligarchies.
Yeah, all those losers, all the nerds in school we laughed at with their drones, all of a sudden they become the heroes of society, flying these drones.
That's ironic, isn't it?
Deborah, good morning to you as well. Hope you're having good weather in the Fraser Valley. Johnny Tightlips, yes, JP, ultra internationalism, I Nazis.
In Nazis. That's clever. Not very, it doesn't ring a bell though. I Nazis. Too many syllables. We need a better acronym.
Sounds like the newest product from Apple, the I Nazi.
That was good.
Thank God we don't have the viewership, otherwise Apple would sue us. See what Alice has to say. Marilyn Gladu, oh yeah, the fat whale. She was going to have a meet and greet in her writing, and she had to cancel because there were rumblings of rallies against her. I didn't know that.
Gladu the Hut. No, there is a movement. What's the gentleman's name? He's a PPC guy from Sarnia. Tony Tarrant.
Oh man, I should know this. I just interviewed him.
Tony Tarrant, but he has a campaign where it's resign Marilyn Gladu. I think he's got a bunch of signs made, and they're all purple, so I think it's in some way associated with PPC. But that's good, man. Keep the pressure on, because like this is outrageous. They set this up as the most consequential election of all time, like they always do. But like people voted in the conservative MP, and then she swaps over to the liberal team. So now she's going to be a liberal when she's been highly critical of liberal policies and blaming them for all of our societal woes. It's next level, man. People should be keeping the pressure on these public servants.
It's just she has the audacity to say that this is what's in the best interest of her constituency. This is what they wanted. And this is like, you got a Catholic bishop, and he gets appointed to whatever, the Pope, and then he switches over to the Nation of Islam. Like, this is what my people want. Like, no, that's not at all what they wanted.
It's a really good analogy. It's that preposterous. So people should be upset. And again, like when I say get in the streets, like I'm very anti-violence, and I think everyone loses with approaches like that. But I mean, putting pressure on people, organize, put a group together, stand against this kind of corruption. Because if we don't do this at a grassroots level and grow it and ensure that it's not subverted, we're going to lose. There's no other viable option in my estimation.
GLADU, it sounds like a CIA, Operation GLADU.
Operation Gladio.
Yeah, yeah. You're using obese politicians to destabilize a country before you take it over.
She got in though, man. The people wanted her for whatever she represented. But again, it's just blue team versus red team. There's no substance to our elections or the information level of our electorate. So that's what we get.
All right, let's put GLADU in the rearview mirror. Squirrel Nuts, hello again, sir. Exactly. Quit being told who to hate and figure it out or shut up. I think that's the Avi guy from the NDP.
Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of these people, and the strategy works. You get people emotional. You identify a boogeyman. It's just rinse repeat what we saw during COVID, what we saw during Ukraine, the invasion, and what we saw during Orange Man Bad.
It's this righteous douchey attitude. Like we're going to stand against. It's like you guys are. It's like what Rage Against the Machine became Rage for the Machine. So they're trying to package it as like pseudo rebellion, like youthful rebellion against social injustice, and they're just part of a multifaceted machine that's in the process of perpetuating humanity's slavery. Way to go, here of the left. It's just such a joke, man. People are just caricatures. People are doing interpretations of characters to put themselves in these different camps. It's just we're far past ludicrous. It's theater for the absurd at this point, especially with these left parties. Like Avi Lewis, like, come on, man. Just blows my mind. Like, I hope they get decimated in the next election because I don't think people are there anymore. I really don't. I think most people have the same reaction you and I, Peyman, have of hearing that nonsense.
Well, this jackass, like he's scrambling because he's got to carve out a position for the NDP in this world. And it can't really be climate change anymore because that's gone. It can't be communism anymore because our socialism and just our bureaucracy has hollowed out the country. So he's leaning into these divisive tactics to racial division, transit division. But I don't think it's going to work. The people are they're borderline starving. Like the people can't afford food. The people are frustrated. We're on the verge of revolution. And his strategy is it's not going to work. And like you said, I hope he just gets annihilated in the election.
Yeah, me too. That's a very astute observation. It's like people don't care about identity politics when they're hungry. People don't care about that when they're going to lose their mortgage or they can't make their power payments and they're about to be disconnected. These are the type of economic realities for the working class who, if I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the NDP's primary constituency. Their concerns were of the working class. That's, they forgot that. You know what I mean? It's wild. That's the biggest thing that I found absurd about all of this was right away, the so-called left, who's always been against mass migration and economic migration because it stagnates the wages of the working class. This has been a historical position of left-leaning parties. It was the right-leaning parties that wanted cheap labor, that were in favor of these worker programs and stuff. But suddenly, because it's kind of convoluted in this racialism and this identity oppression Olympics, it makes the left people be like, oh, yeah, well, we actually want that. It's like, well, what happened to the working class? That's on the back burner now for this modern orthodoxy or this modern religion of diversity. And I'll tell you what diversity means. It's actually a polemic. It's conceptual polysemy. When they use the term diversity, it means quite literally absence of the perceived racial hegemon. It means absence of white people. It's a slur the way they use it.
Well, nobody said that they're intelligent. They happen to be winning the argument. Squirrel Nuts. Yeah, go to Agenda 2030. There's the plan. Eliminate the right. That's their plan. They just want to eliminate any opposition. But it's This Agenda 2030 thing, it's mostly left, but I'm sure there's elements of the right. And as JP said, like the left-right thing, they're moving around so much. So what started out with the Patriot Act on the right with censorship, now the left is running with it. It's hard to tell who's who.
Yeah, they switch it around. They use it. It's a left versus right slave dialectic. I've explained it multiple times. I've written an article about it if anyone wants to check on the article profile of my X account. But this is one of the primary mechanisms they utilize to manipulate our behavior. And our tribalist proclivities overwhelm our rational faculties. And we just see the world as us versus them. We've made the enemy an outgroup, and they do the same. And this just perpetuates itself, and we never get to the core of our issues.
I'm reading some of the comments. What does Squirrel Nuts got to say here? Hilarious to see and hear them all summoned together to spread their BS. Is this the event that was yesterday? Maybe the
I would assume the NDP event, maybe with Avi Lewis.
Could have been.
Not sure.
They even look like a bunch of just weirdos. You remember that movie, the music video? Those guys were like dancing. This is like mentally unfit people were breakdancing in front of a movie theater. But I think it was Fatboy Slim. He recorded these like weird guys breakdancing. They didn't know how to breakdance. That's what the NDP.
That was an interpretive dance group from the mall.
You remember it? Yeah,
I do remember it. That was a great song.
That's the NDP now. Whenever they get together for a press conference,
that's what it looks like for sure. I remember at their big meeting, they had that one, and people were making Mad Magazine memes of her. She was like the non-binary deaf lady. I don't know, man. It's like I say, it's the oppression Olympics. And it's like the intersectionality Olympics, because there's like cross sections of oppressed groups, excuse me, that you could fall on. Like I'm a transgendered Black neurodivergent, whatever, you know what I mean? You're getting points for every one of these different statuses.
Somebody should have gone as the character of Two-Face from Batman, and they could help. They'd be like, "I am a black-white person." Like half their face is painted white, the other half is black. Or you could say, "I'm a Trudeau white, Trudeau black face, Trudeau white face."
Some of their press conferences look like that. I've seen some like very elaborate, I guess, drag queens that were like had makeup of clowns and stuff. It looks like something very very sad. It gives me a bad feeling when I see it. It almost looks a little evil in some way. It's like, wow, like we've lost the plot, thoroughly lost the plot.
Let's see. Alice Not Woke. The NDP only represents the unions, teachers, and government employees. Yeah, I remember that. You're right. So in a way, they do represent employees, workers, the blue collar, but they represent the white collar facade of the blue collar.
Well, the unions have been subverted too. Everything just gets subverted, and they do what the ruling class wants them to do. And I know that sounds paranoid, but again, I've done enough research that this is just clear in my mind. That's what I said at New Year's of this year. Like I can't continue doing podcasts and having just normie conservative talk. Because I mean, I think our problems are far broader than that. So I mean, I can't do that anymore. I believe everything's been subverted, and I think they're just playing us all off against each other with this reflexivity thing. Like again, we mentioned this on a show this week. Like they'll put the most woke, offensive leftist, so-called leftist, in a position of power, and they don't care how much chaos she creates, because their whole premise for doing this is to inspire the so-called right to rise up, right? And they play us back and forth against one another, utilizing this dialectic. So it's almost not relevant. If they did try to represent the working class, they would still be subverted to do what they want to do. And that's what the point I was trying to make with Danielle Smith too. I don't think what you want or how you want to represent your constituency matters when you get into these true positions of apparent power. I think you're in no uncertain terms told exactly what you're going to do.
I was talking to this guy who ran as mayor, and his whole aim was to reduce the budget, get trim the fat, get rid of some of the employees, and just have a balanced budget. And he goes, first of all, he failed. He said nothing I did succeeded. I got so much pushback, and he said he realized that the system is designed in such a way, it's set up in a way that until it collapses completely, nobody can reform it.
Yeah, it's a bit dark, but I think he's potentially right. It's like I say, I think it could be reformed, but I don't think it could be reformed from within. I think if you involve yourself in this, once you get to any position of power, I think you're put in line. And if you can't be swayed in that way, then they will push you out. But I do think reform could happen from public pressure. Which is kind of our third topic. Like Europe is far ahead with understanding this than Canadians and Americans are. We're just starting to see now that both sides of our political parties are corrupt as hell. In Europe, they realized this like 10 years ago in parts. So I mean, we have to figure out where the true battle is, and we have very little time to do so.
Yeah. Squirrel Nuts makes a good observation. All across the country, all of a sudden, they are all commenting on Alberta. Yeah, it must be a coincidence. Surely it's not intentional.
Yeah, it's a concerted effort, and the way they coordinate their messaging, it works to their disadvantage because you start to see the synthetic nature of it. And this is what they do. It's almost like they're overplaying their hand strategically. When you see everyone turn around and what's the topic of today, they all just, they don't even change what they were told. They probably get instructions every day. I bet you they all have handlers in some capacity.
It's basically all hands on deck against Danielle Smith. She has become the focal point, and you got the junior partner, her little retard gimp Mussolini, Scott Moe over there for her moral support, but it's all on her.
It's short-sighted because what could happen, maybe the NDP gets back in power, but I think this will embolden the separatists and the people that are just tired of being bullied. I think if they actually got if they keep doing this with Danielle Smith, I think someone even more separatist minded could find the right ingredients to actually gain power.
Yeah, but the problem is the Alberta NDP, right? And that's probably what they're hoping, that this will cause disunity amongst her base, which will fracture her base. They can do a recall, or she'll lose the next election, and then they can get the NDP in. And once they get the NDP in Alberta, they will never allow this to happen ever again. They're going to shut down all the oil and gas jobs. They're going to concentrate people in the two big cities that they can control, and they'll govern forever.
I get that. I do. That's the don't split the vote. And I'm not trying to dismiss it and say there's no logic to it, but I'm on a different framing for that. I think what's going to happen in Alberta has been decided by people that aren't in political provincial power positions. I think whoever's in there is going to have to go along with this agenda. So I don't think it's as important. I think it's, if anything, man, we should be desperate to go for third parties. We should be absolutely desperate to go for independence. Anything that exists outside of this main party system.
Squirrel Nuts. The NDP will never, ever govern Alberta again as long as I breathe.
As long as I breathe.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I want to believe you, but the people are very easy to control. And if you can split the base the way that our election systems are set up, and the electoral fraud and the gerrymandering, and the fact that they have CSIS and the RCMP, and they got billions of dollars in think tanks, probably from Europe and the bankers, they'll find a way.
Yeah, they will find a way. Our only way is large citizens groups, organize, make populist societies, nationalist societies. Be active, be proactive in your community, do some door knocking, stuff like that. Like really be creative and think outside of the box, because we're not going to vote our way out of this. That was a cliche, and a lot of people didn't like that, but the cynics were accurate in this instance.
Yeah, we need education, and the people have to actually want the education. You can't force it on them. And as you mentioned, door knocking would be a perfect way. Get involved with. You could do your own local political party. You could do it with your church. You could come up with your own citizen movement. But we need, we need to organize. That's the only way that we can push back the NDP liberal and conservative machine in Canada.
True grassroots endeavors too. And the people that if you are thinking about starting a group, be very be very leery of subversion. Like, watch out for big donations, watch out for people joining the movement and being a little too perfect. Vet people, vet them thoroughly.
Yeah, if you get $1 million from V Putin, it could be a trap. That's all we have for questions, I guess. We can, if you want to end it early or
Yeah, we can end it early. I will take a moment again to appeal to our audience. We didn't do the show for a few days, and then we came back and we had like triple our live viewers. We got about 800 views on it. And then the subsequent shows were being suppressed very much again. The reason I bring it up, it's not a woe is me thing. Peyman and I do this for our own sanity as well. But I just want to really appeal to you. If you like this content, please share this. Send it to people that you think might enjoy this kind of content. Anything you do in regards to that really helps us immensely. So with that said, we will see you guys Monday morning. Cheers.